Hi everyone, welcome to Unscripted Coding. Today I'm going to talk about Android AI agents. Now you might be thinking Gemini Spark, but what I'm talking about today is one that I built myself. Now here is a mirroring of a actual physical phone. This is my phone. You can see that's the same thing, and if I just put it here, you can see that's mirroring quite accurately. Bit of delay maybe, but the very short, super short demo here is I have my home screen. There is an ugly purple microphone icon. That's a widget that I created, and I'm just going to ask it to do something simple. Can you go and log into Fire Emblem Heroes and check on my quests and missions? Give me a summary of the current status. And so you see here, there is a box. It tells you the current status. I'm just going to turn it off here so you can see that's interacting with the screen. When it's yellow, there's a yellow frame. It's thinking, and when it's green, it's interacting with something. And so here, it's just thinking, it's seeing what's on the screen, and now that's gray, it means that's kind of completed. Now the chatbot has its um, own canvas to talk to me about, and here you can see that it completed a summary for me. Now the problem here is that it's not familiar with every game. In fact, it's quite a light model, so it didn't tap through the various missions. I didn't expect it to. I've tested it a few times. What I have to do is tell it to go through each of the tabs and under quests and missions, just be more clear. But especially with such a light and fast model, it's just doing what immediately comes to mind. But you can see the general idea here. I want it to be quick and simple. And it's just on my home screen. I can tell it to do different things. Now, Fire Emblem Heroes, I've chosen just to give it a bit more complexity. But what I have done is ask it to go into my Gmail and summarize the two emails from X. I have gone in and asked it to look at my messages from LinkedIn or WhatsApp or other platforms and summarize or respond. Um, and it's been a really interesting journey. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it's created. Actually came together much quicker than you might imagine. But before that, I wanted to address the elephant in the room because as I explained this to a few friends, the first thing that came to mind is, aren't these just right around the corner? Why'd you waste all that time and effort into it? Um, I am excited about Gemini Spark. I am excited about all of these agents are coming to our phones and tablets, I'm sure. But the reality is, every time you see a demo for one of these, even today, just Gemini, you always see the same examples. You see it order an Uber ride, order some food, make a hotel or book a hotel or a flight. There's a reason for that. I have seen my own AI agent here do some wildly not inappropriate, it's been fairly good, but some wildly inaccurate things. And so even here you can see that it did not find all the quests and missions. In some ways, is it my fault? Is it the AI's fault? Who knows? But I don't live a super important life. If I send a few friends a random really bad message or something that's not meant for them, I don't have any deep dark secrets to hide. Similarly, if it accidentally spends a few orbs on my Fire Emblem account, not the end of the world. But a somebody from Google can't take that position. If you're rolling out Gemini Spark, it has to be narrowed down. And so at the end of the day, even looking at their home page, you'll see the same examples. It's going to be your Gmail, your Google Workspace, maybe Google Flights, and Once they start partnering, the first couple partners are going to be Spotify, Uber, and DoorDash or something. Um, that's not going to help me. How many times do I get on a flight or a hotel, and how often do I need it in such a rush that I need to offload it to an AI agent? On the other hand, what can save me a lot of time is doing, my daily quests, checking my messages across a couple media channels, sending out a few responses to people reaching out to me. Those kind of things, really useful, and they're outside the Google ecosystem. And so that's why I built this AI agent. Now, how did I build it? The first thing is I have been using browser use for a little while now. Browser use, if you haven't tried it already, is an amazing tool. We've talked about it on this channel already. It's similar to Perplexity Comet or any of the AI browsers in that you get a side icon here and ask it to do various things. What's nice about browser use is that you're not tied to a specific browser and you're not tied to a specific ecosystem. And so with browser use, I've used different APIs, I've used different tools, I've used different browsers, and I can recreate a completely different interface. Like for everything else, it's almost always a chat interface. You ask it to do some things right here, and there are some skills. But what if I don't care? There's a few things that I always have to do, just 5 buttons, 10 buttons. That's basically what I built with browser use with a chat interface, but a couple of buttons ready to go. And in fact, I double click a script on my desktop that automatically triggers a few of these workflows. Now, browser use has worked really, really well in that, I have it automatically post things on TikTok, Reddit, and so on. But at the end of the day, it's still a browser. There are limited things on the web. There are many things on the web, but there are things that are on my phone or on my tablet that I can't do on a browser. Something has to be underlying, like the OS. And so I wanted to check what else was out there. And, Windows is a whole beast of its own, and I thought Android would be good. It can interact with so many different things on my phone. And in particular, just interacting with a phone, with a camera, with those kind of things, with GPS, with navigation, having it with me are all helpful pieces. And so I found this thing called mobile use, and I thought maybe it's just a riff of browser use. Regardless, it was what I was looking for, but I realized this whole thing needs to be tethered to your computer. It has to be, or through an Android emulator. These are not things that I cared so much about. I wanted it partly because I could take it with me. I could go out, on a hike, take a photo of something. I don't need my phone for the next 5 minutes, so I'm going to tell it to do something with the photos, do some research of the plant that I took a photo of, just go at it, um, and then send it out to various people. I can't do that if I'm tethered to my computer. And so I looked through this and realized, you know what? There isn't a huge reason it has to be tethered to the phone in the first place. And so I tried Android Studio, AI Studio. And so if you haven't already, go to aistudio.google.com, and now they have a tool, and I'm just gonna go here first, AI Studio. They have a tool to build your own Android app, and so let me just bring it back right here. Build an Android app, and then you can tell it to do various things. Now, if you just say, I want an AI agent, I don't think you're going to get very far. But what I learned while browsing through these is that there are a couple of different approaches and there are a couple clear limitations. And what I wanted to share with you really quickly is that you can go and preview the app and build right on a simulated device. I'm pretty sure that this is connecting to the web, to a simulated device hosted on Google servers. I have no idea how long this will last, but every time I make a run, it runs for like, what is that, 4 minutes? Um, Sometimes it runs like 10, 15 minutes. So I have been really impressed with AI Studio Android development. You're getting Gemini 3.5 Flash, which you might think isn't great, but when it runs for several minutes at a time, it's actually really quite good. All right, I'm just jumping all over the place here. Let me just bring my device back in here. What I learned is that there are two primary ways to create this app. One is how you interact. And this is really interesting. I'm not sure why most are picking one or the other when we could theoretically hedge. One of the nice things about my agent is it does switch automatically. There is logic, but when you have a direct node API, it's using the accessibility options on your phone. If you haven't toyed with it before, you can pretend you're blind and you can just hover your finger over any one of these icons and it'll tell you what it is. How it's doing that is all of Android runs on XML. And so these buttons are basically elements. And when you look at the whole screen, the computer has a code version of it of here is a title element, here's a button element, here's a card element, and it's reading to you all the text. You can hijack this and give it to the agent. Um, Google might be thinking you're doing something related to accessibility, but for us, it's just giving the agent a code view of what it sees, and then you can say, read me the title element, basically, or here's how the screen looks. Go and click the button. Doesn't even need to know where it is. It just knows that it's a button it needs to click, and it'll tell it programmatically to click the button. It's kind of like having the HTML of a web page. You and I would not visually be able to see it, but the AI can. Separately, I can do a physical tap, and what that is it's taking a screenshot and from there tapping specific coordinates. Now, you gotta mix and match these because something like this interface is nice and easy. It's built on XML. Most of the interfaces are, but something like Fire Emblem, it is a canvas. All the AI can see with the direct node is just one canvas, and there's all these drawings and sprites on it, but with the code, it can't see anything. It has to go through screenshots. The other thing we want to see is which model you want to interact with. And what I found was really, really good is Google Gemini. Gemini 3.1 Flashlight seems to have a really good balance. It's really quick. You can see it think and act fairly quickly. If you use something like 3.1 Pro, it takes too long. It's going to be 3, 4, 5 seconds every time you switch modes, and it'll be unbearably long. Gemini 3.1 Flash has been good, and it's a good balance of speed and capability. Now, I have put in Open Router as well. And, Gemma 4 is an even smaller model and in theory faster, but it's just too dumb. My goal eventually is to take out the API entirely because I don't want to send images of my, chats and everything over the internet and eventually run an on-device on-device AI. And the reality is it currently has Gemma 4. It runs okay, but it makes too many mistakes. I'm hoping that in another generation or two, I have the infrastructure ready to immediately hop over. Okay. Anyways, what I wanted to say is that you can see that this is not even all that long of a chat. I just gave it the idea that I wanted an AI agent. Um, and where's my app? Here it is. I wanted an AI agent, and I saw these things about XML. I wanted to interact with XML, and I've kind of given it more and more about what I expected. Now, the very first version looked like this, and so you'll notice that you have to turn on a few accessibility options, but more importantly, a lot of what was happening was right here in the console. And so I had to type, I added the voice afterwards. It's all within this screen. So it was a bit confusing. I had to ask it to add a widget, an overlay, the borders, those kind of design choices I've kind of added over time. But in short, all I wanted to say is AI Studio on Google is surprisingly capable of creating a sophisticated app. This is not an easy one. You have to have a fairly deep understanding of how Android works, and how to build an Android app to do this. And you can still modify the code if you like. And so one of the things is I really don't like this interface. I've asked it a few times to move things around, but I think I'm going to have to do it manually and change this main activity and move it around. But anyways, I don't want to go in too much deeper. I just wanted to share that this is all possible to create, and that we're in a world where I think apps are going to become so easy to build that we might be at a point where anyone can build something very much tailored to themselves. Okay, I hope you found that interesting. Once I get all the wrinkles out of this app, I will be posting it onto my GitHub, but it's not going to be when I launch this video. There are too many things that can go wrong when you give an app so much access. I'm doing this on my phone because it's the easiest one to connect, but I actually have a dedicated tablet for this. I have a very specific use case in development that I have a dedicated device for. This one has, none of my bank information, none of my social channels, none of my friends, and so on, so that if it goes haywire, not a big deal. If you really like this, let me know, and I will keep developing, and I might do another video or two to show you the progress as it goes, because I do think this has gone so well, it's going to be a bedrock for something else I'm building. Okay, stay tuned, subscribe, like the video, and stay tuned next time for our next project. Thanks for watching. Bye.